IVM.
You're listening to Wordy Wordpecker, Extraordinary Stories of Ordinary Words with Rachel Lopez. Did you like Wordy Wordpecker? My 13-episode podcast about the extraordinary history of ordinary words? Did you giggle over the history of the word bikini? Were you the one laughing at my rubbish French accent when I worked out where the word silhouette came from? Don't worry, so was I. Before we wrap up 2018, I thought it might be fun to end with a bonus. All the buzzwords that flew around us this year and their surprising origins. We're not going alphabetically or anything, don't worry. Let's start. Gaslighting. How could I not start with a word that came out of the Me Too explosion? You've probably come across gaslighting on social media as men and women did everything they could to discredit the memories or the stories of women who were naming their sexual harassers. Maybe we remembered it wrong, but it was so long ago. Maybe we had it all mixed up. Maybe we've been wrong about other things, so maybe we're not wrong about this. Maybe we just want cheap publicity. Maybe we're upset about something else. Maybe we're just hysterical. Maybe. Maybe these counter-accusations are just gaslighting. Gaslighting is when a person is manipulated to stop believing what they saw, what they heard, what they remembered, and what they think is true. What does this have to do with gaslights? The term comes from a 1938 play called Gaslight, which had 2 film versions which came out in the 1940s. Gaslight is a play or a film about a husband who's murdered a woman and then keeps toying with his wife's suspicions and keeps making her think like she's slowly going out of her mind. He gaslights her into believing that what she sees or what she believes is not there. He makes her think that she's stealing things without realizing it, hearing noises that aren't there. And of course, all the dimming and brightening of the lights in the attic, all the gas lights, that's just a figment of her imagination. Ugh! The idea is as old as time. Even the word is 80 years old. But the next time someone's attacking your version of reality, just call it gaslighting. Unless you've spotted the unicorns dancing at H&M, because that totally happens on Tuesdays. Wedding. Of course, we're discussing weddings. That's all we did this year, isn't it? How long Meghan Markle's train was. How much longer Priyanka's was. Did Ranveer wear a ghagra? Who did Deepika invite and who didn't she invite? Did Himesh Reshamya sing at his reception? How did Sonam party? Who styled Virushka? How much did they pay Beyonce? And most importantly, why didn't Milind Soman wait for me, goddammit? The word wedding, comes from wed, which of course means to be married. But the word wed itself has a very interesting history. The old English term for getting married used to be bridalope or bridal run, which referred to the journey that a bride or the young woman would take to her new home. But they later started using weddin, W-E-D-D-E-N, which sounds a lot like the German word at the time called wetten, except that German word used to mean pledge for the Germans. And they took that word from the Latin term vad, which means bail or security. And the Danes used that word as well. They used vad and turned it into ved, but they actually meant ved as in placing a bet. Oops. Now, before you think people were betting on how long marriages last, I'm going to clear things up. All of those terms simply mean promise, as in, I promise to make good on the bet, I promise to pay the bail, I promise to do what I've said. And that's what happens at weddings, doesn't it? People say I do and vow to do the things they said they'll do. So it's not as awful as you think. Congratulations! Shred. Yes, this was the year that Girl with Balloon, a framed canvas by Banksy, who's everybody's favorite graffiti artist, went on auction. It got bid, it got counterbid, and it eventually sold for $1.4 million. And then, seconds later, as people watched horrified, a secret contraption built into the frame began to shred the canvas into smithereens. Is Banksy a scamster? Is he the last iconoclast we have in the art world? Is he just a publicity hound? Or did the ripping of his work make the greatest art statement of the 21st century? I don't know. I guess none of us will know. But I do know that the half-shredded work, frame and everything, was eventually renamed. It's now called Love in the Bin, and it is now worth far more than 1.4 million. It is, after all, the first work of art ever created at a live auction. But what does shred mean? It's such a guttural word, na? Shred. It might possibly come from shreed, an old English word which means scrap or leftover pieces of cloth. The Dutch used to call this leftover stuff shrood. The Germans called it schrott. And all these words are distantly related to the much older Proto-Indo-European word, which is screw, which means to cut. And that word screw eventually became screw or screwdriver. So shred ultimately means to take apart and put back together. Sort of like ripping a painting and turning it into a new one. Banksy would approve of this word shred, don't you think? Let me know. Bling. Bling is on this list because it's all over the place this season. Indians were never afraid of a little sparkle. But by gosh, have you looked at the party mannequins this year? There's sequins everywhere. Everything is covered in reflective shiny bits. It's almost like the memo for the year end is try to outshine the disco ball. There's a word for this. Bling. It's not an old word. There are no Old English roots, no Norse roots, no Latin version. The Danes didn't do it. The term was actually born in the 1990s. It first appeared in 1993 on a song called Dolly My Baby by the Jamaican Supercat. He was a DJ. But the obsession with the word sort of snowballed in the late 1990s once gangster hip-hop got popular. Do you remember the time? Musicians were decorating their car wheels, their guns, their belt buckles, their sunglasses, their teeth, and I really don't want to think what else, with diamonds and crystals. And you remember how it caught the light? And you remember the accompanying effect, the sound effect that it made when you saw it on TV? It was bling! And that's really where the word came from. That glittery stuff got everywhere, got really popular, and so did the word. In 2005, the new X-Men hero, who had diamond shards in her marrow, don't ask, was given the name Bling. In 2006, the next year, it got into the Merriam-Webster dictionary. It's totally legit to say bling now, but the word probably comes from the German verb for something gleaming. They say blinken. But don't you think bling sounds better? Taxi. Why taxi? This was the year commuters realized just how much more convenient it is to book an app-based ride. They realized how it was possible to share long-distance rides with strangers. Local taxis went on strike. Then Uber drivers went on strike. Then local taxis went on strike again. Then Uber drivers picketed again. Then Uber's creepy misogynist memos became public. Then their self-driving car killed a woman. All this brouhaha over a techie taxi. But what does taxi even mean? The word is a little more than 100 years old. It got popular when metered motor cars were introduced on London's roads in 1907. The cabs had a taximeter, which is a little device to automatically calculate distance and fare, and the term came from the German word taxameter, which literally means tax measurer or something that works out how much to charge. People used to use the word taxi for some pretty unusual things. In the 1930s, a taxi dancer was a woman whose services you could hire at a dance hall, like she would dance with you until the meter ran out. And when a plane is taxiing the runway at the airport, it just means that it is cruising, the way cab drivers do when they're looking for fares, and the way Ubers never have to. So that's what taxi means. Throwing shade. Now this is a word that comes at the request of my producer Surbhi. Hi Surbhi. Throwing shade, if you don't know, happens when you're trash-talking about someone but on the sly. Like you're not insulting someone directly, but in a roundabout way, so they don't know they're being insulted. It just means you're being shady. But where does it come from? Girl, it don't come from Rihanna, though she throws shade a lot. The term is actually popular among Black and Latino people, particularly drag queens in New York City. And it got popular on shows like RuPaul's Drag Race, where quite frankly, everyone threw shade all the time. I mean, have you seen those people? But the term might be even older. It may come from centuries of black slavery. With slaves, there was so much that you couldn't do, couldn't say, couldn't even gesticulate, because it would mean sure death or a whipping. And so the black community started to develop their own codes of communication within each other and to refer to each other and to refer to their enslavers. Throwing shade was one of them. And because it was part of their vocabulary, they carry it with them to this day. Girl, we've only just found out. Now that's shade. This was Wordy Wordpecker. If you liked this show, you can listen to other fantastic podcasts on the IVM Podcast app and on our website ivmpodcasts.com or wherever you get your podcasts from. Don't forget to follow IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram. And you can reach out to me on Twitter at Greater Bombay and hit me up with your favorite words.
Yeah. It's IVM here, let's go. We the IVM kids on the block over here. Just to talk, taking a break from producing all day. Coming on this podcast cause we got stuff to say. IVM Daily is the name of the show. Monday to Friday, we ready to go. Talking about stuff in our head. We might even talk about our favorite bread. Signing out, it's IVM here, the podcast network that's in your ear.
Catch IVM Daily, Monday to Friday on the IVM Podcast app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are about to listen to attempt number 15 to record the promo for the podcast Vartalab.
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 All day, all night, Vartalab.
Oh yeah.
It's a really nice podcast, guys. It's with me and Naveen, and it has really nice stories.
Yeah, people come tell their stories, ups and downs, fun times. We all cry at the end. It's like a Karan Joy movie, but in 1 hour or less.
Yay.
Yeah, every Monday. Yeah.
It's got you.